Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Without further ado, Money Show is excited to welcome back Oliver Velez, an international best-selling author, world-renowned trader, entrepreneur, and one of the world's most respected and celebrated traders of all time. Oliver, boom, the floor is yours, sir.
I like that. Thank you, guys. Thanks for once again for having me. And once again, traders, I get in every time I get an opportunity to speak in front of a mic or in front of an audience, whether it be live or virtually, I do not take it for granted that you show up, or many of you actually show up. It is something that I place a great deal of importance on, and I try my very best to deliver something of value each and every time I'm offered that opportunity. And so let's see if I can do it one more time. All right. Today is actually going to be a talk that somewhat continues what we began talking about yesterday. And if you did not get an opportunity to see my presentation yesterday, I strongly encourage that you find a way to do that at some point in the future when it's available here on the Money Show. But this topic is becoming the most dominant topic in financial circles all around the world, in political circles all around the world, and rightfully so. And I feel that it's somewhat my fiduciary responsibility to make sure that all those who follow me and have been following me for quite some time are on top of this topic. Now, today, what I want to drill down to is what's driving the new world, or what's driving the future value of the world. You see, every generation has something that drives the value of the world. And as I talked about the other day, every generation has a major decision to make. My grandparents, they had a major decision to make in their generation. If they got that decision right, they lived well. That decision was to get a college degree. If anyone in my grandparents' era got a college degree, they lived well, they lived above their means, they lived above the vast majority of people on planet Earth. They lived wealthy lives. My parents came along, and their decision, the generation of my parents had a different decision. And if they got that one decision right, they actually, in large part, became wealthy and lived well. And that was home ownership, real estate. Real estate was all the rage during my parents' generation. You bought a house for 40, 50, 60, 80, $100,000, and it was $1 million, $2 million, a number of years later. That was the craze. That was the one decision you needed to make right in my parents' decision, in my parents' generation. My generation came along, and there was one major decision to get right: equity ownership, financial involvements in the financial arena in some way. If you got that wrong, you fell behind. If you did not participate in my generation in the stock market in some way, in other financial markets as well, you fell behind. And the vast majority of people who lived well became extraordinarily wealthy during my generation's time. They were somewhat and in some way involved in financial markets. Well, there's the generation now that is just starting. And this decision is very different. And this decision is inextricably intertwined with this topic today, which is that we are in an era where the world is being dematerialized. And if you get this right, you're likely to get the number one decision in today's world right, which is to bet on anything that is helping to foster or quicken the dematerialization of the world. This is not a bad thing, which is often depicted in the news, where the world is becoming dematerialized or digitized. This is a good thing, and we have to get behind it. So listen, I need you to follow me, all right, especially on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. All right. I try to answer all of my questions, especially on Twitter. Oliver Velez Trading is my main YouTube channel. I have English, Spanish, and Portuguese channel. 365 days a year, a new video for you every single day from me that helps you take an additional step toward trading mastery. So follow me there. Okay. Oliver Velez Trading. Now, the world has been disappearing our entire lives. This has crept up into being a major force now, but quietly, ever so slowly, ever so gradually, our world has been disappearing. Now, you might have asked how? Well, it's very simple. The world has been moving from an analog or physical world to a digital one, and it's been going on our whole lives. In fact, it's been going on before any of us were ever born. Let's take a look at a few examples, okay? The dematerialization, the era of dematerialization. We're too young to remember when every single home, every single hearth, every single casa was primarily lit by kerosene lamps and candles, okay? This was the world until light was dematerialized, energy was dematerialized. Light became something you couldn't feel or touch anymore. And initially, people were skeptical moving to an electricity-based home, an electricity-based city, an electricity-based world. People were skeptical. They thought that disease would happen as a result of leaving candles and going to a house that was totally lit by electricity. It was very difficult at this time to get the world to adopt to electricity. But light and energy became totally dematerialized. You didn't have to hold it. You didn't have to touch it. You can't really see it. You could see the effect of electricity, but not electricity itself. So energy and light became dematerialized for the human experience. All right. Photos, remember those where you used to bore your neighbors all the time, or maybe your parents bored their neighbors all the time, showing every time anybody would come over, they would break out 4 or 5 different fat albums with hundreds of pictures of you when you were a little kid. You'd say, oh my God, mom, dad, please, not again. Right. Well, photos today, where are they? What are they? They've been totally dematerialized or digitized. Now, here's something interesting. What you'll notice is that whatever was physical that has moved to being digitized or dematerialized, the dematerialized or the digitized version is far greater, exponentially greater than the analog or physical version. So, of course, light produced by electricity is far greater than light produced by kerosene lamps and candles, exponentially so. All right. Photos, you had maybe a few thousand photos in about 12 different albums stuffed somewhere in your home. Today, how many digital photos do you have on your iPhone or your Galaxy or your smartphone? Probably tens of thousands of photos. Some of you have millions of photos. The digital version, the immaterial version, is always way bigger than the analog or physical version. This is a theme I need you to understand. Now, show me a picture today. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. You can see it, but you can't touch it or feel it. You can touch the glass on your phone. You can touch the screen on your iPad, but you can't actually touch a photo anymore today. Yes, you can be nostalgic and go somewhere to have it printed and put in a frame. But for the most part, we don't touch our photos today. They're immaterial. They've been dematerialized. Now, look at what's happened to books. My mother was an assistant librarian. I lived in the library. I came directly home from school, right to my mother's library, and we left every single night at 8:30 p.m. when the library closed. I read every single book in my mother's relatively small library. Now, I remember going to the big library and seeing thousands upon thousands of books. Today, libraries have been totally dematerialized. They're there as a cute little reminder of what we used to have in the past. But for the most part, I hold a library. I hold the world's knowledge in this. Libraries have been dematerialized. They've been digitized. All the information in the world that used to sit on shelves or back in caves back in the old days, or in cellars of churches that used to hoard the information, all of that information is here at my fingertips today. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, but knowledge, the power from knowledge, the information of the world, the books of the world have been dematerialized. And so today you have more book accessible, you have access to more books in a digitized form than you could ever have in a physical form. The digitized version is exponentially larger. The world is disappearing. And we have many other examples, like look at how many things that used to be that used to be manned physically that are not manned physically. From toll booth people to McDonald's servers. The list goes on. Remember human operators? I don't know, maybe some of you are too young to understand this. Maybe you saw movies, but there used to be physical human people that used to connect our call. Listen, I'd like to place a long distance call to my grandmother in North Carolina. And there would be a person on the other end that would say, okay, I'll connect you right now. And there was a person who pulled the wire out of one wall, one slot, and put it in another slot and literally clicked your phone over. Today, we have digital operators, and they are far greater in number, and they process these switches and changes by the billions every single minute, far more than any human digital operator could do. Look at the analog phone all the way back from the day. And there were other analog phones where you dial. This is one of the more modern analog phones where you didn't have to dial it, you punched it. That phone today is about $34. The digital or the analog phone is $34. The digital version of the phone, this iPhone, cost me $1,500 with everything, all the soups and nuts. This is what I'm talking about, the fact that the digital version of something is far bigger and far more valuable every single time. Okay. Remember the mail, right? When you used to have to write letters and lick that disgusting paste on the back of a letter, go to a mailbox and mail it. Well, today there's email. There's the analog version of writing a letter and sending it by snail mail. And then there's email today, which is the digital form. Now there's I looked this up, there's 175 million pieces of mail mailed today physically every single day. That's a lot, but there's 306 billion emails processed today. And that's last year's figures before the pandemic. Insane. There's no comparison. All right. Blockbuster was the physical form of going to a movie, going to a physical store, looking on the shelves to pick out your physical movie, checking it out and taking it home to your physical VHR tape player. The digital form today, Netflix. There are far more movies available on Netflix than there ever could be in the entire organization of Blockbuster. Blockbuster as an organization reached a peak value of 582 million. This is today's value of Netflix. They're off their high actually at 280 billion. The digital form, the companies that help to dematerialize the world will always outstrip the value of those who are not in that business today. And that's the decision we have to make. We have to find companies that are in the business of digitizing the world, dematerializing something. We have to find anything that is plugged into this concept, and we will fairly be guaranteed that we are making the right decision for this era, because this is the era of digitization or dematerialization. Records went from vinyl to 8-track tapes to CDs to Spotify. Now, you can't touch an album today. You can't feel it. You can't even see it. All you can do is listen to it in your ears. Of course, if you want to be nostalgic and go to an old store just to kind of stay connected to the old past, we can always do that, like antique cars and horses and buggies that we pay a tip of $15 to ride around the block. Of course, we'll always be able to do the old things, but that's just nostalgia. Today, I have access to tens of millions of songs through Spotify, something that was impossible before music was dematerialized for us. How do you give something to 8 billion people on planet Earth. It can't be physical. It's got to be dematerialized. Music is available to 8 billion people today because it's been materialized. Email is available to 8 billion people today because it was materialized. Movies are available to 8 billion people today because it's been dematerialized. Anything that becomes dematerialized or goes to digital format is going to be massive because it's now accessible to every single person on planet Earth. And we have to plug ourselves into this dematerialization moment now. Now, guys, it's time for money to be dematerialized. You see, almost everything has already been dematerialized or is on its way to being dematerialized. The only segment of the entire world that has been untouched, the only part of our entire system that has stayed outside of this movement until now has been money. Now, listen to me carefully. The internet came onto the scene in a big way in the early 1990s. Now, I don't know if people understand this or remember this. I'm dating myself, but in early 1990, using the internet was illegal. It was made illegal in the early 1990s. Now, listen to this. There was a time where the internet started to become adopted so rapidly. It was the fastest adopted technology in the history of the world, that if you did not plug your business into this thing, into this new network called the internet, if you did not get a website, if you did not find a way to connect yourself and your life into this movement, you died. Simple. It may have been a slow death, but a death nonetheless. Well, there's a new internet, because as much as the internet revolution changed everything we do in life, it changed the way we live, the way we relate to each other. It changed the way we deal with each other sexually. It changed the way we educate ourselves. It changed the way we entertain ourselves. It changed the way we shop. It changed our belief systems. It changed everything in the world, from the way businesses do business and the way countries deal with each other. It changed war and religion, but it left one thing untouched. As grand as the changes that the internet brought about, it did not touch money. Money stayed the same. Politics changed. Governments changed. The world changed, except the world's money. It stayed outside of the control or the influence of this massive movement driven by the internet until now. We have moved into the era where this movement starts to radically disrupt and change the world of money. And that, my friends, is the biggest world of all. You see, the banks have been given the ability to stay unchanged, untouched. The monetary systems around the world have remained untouched, unbothered, and therefore they become lazy and have failed to innovate and adapt. And this, in my opinion, is going to ultimately be their downfall. It is time for money to be disrupted. It is time for money to change. It is broken. And I believe that when you fix the money, you fix a lot of problems in the world. It's time for money to be fixed. Now, how is money going to be fixed? It's simple, in my opinion, right now. It's as clear as day to me. Bitcoin. Now, look, gold has been the base layer of money for the world for the past 6,000 years. It's done its job. It was fantastic. It was amazing. It did its job. But today, in a digital society where everything is being dematerialized, it doesn't fit. It's like putting a square into a circle or a circle into a square peg. It's gone. It's finished. It's over. I'm sorry, gold bugs. It's over. Your time is over. You had a great 6,000-year run, but it's big. It's bulky. You can't move it. It's easily confiscatable. Somebody can knock you over the head for it if they know you have it. It's not appropriate for today's digital world. And this is why over the past 10 years, it has been a disappointment in an era and in a decade when it should have been shining at its brightest. But what is the new digitized version of gold? We had a digitized version of mail. We had a digitized version of music, a digitized version of photos, a digitized version of shopping online. We've had a digitized version of everything. And now it's time for a digitized version of gold, but it doesn't stop there. All right. Bitcoin is the dematerialization of all of money, not just gold. So we start with the idea to make it easy for people to understand that this is the new gold, but it's more than the new gold. It's the new monetary system of the world. You can't touch it really. You can't feel it, but you got to get used to that concept, because the things that hold the most value today can't be touched or felt anymore. And so we've got to get off of this idea that things have to be physical. Blockbuster felt that, and they lost. Banks are going to be dematerialized. Silver is going to be dematerialized. The central banks around the world are talking about central digital currencies. We're going digital with the money society. And this, in my opinion, Bitcoin's going to rule them all. And it's not just me saying it. The market speaks for itself. All of my life, I've been told that the market ultimately tells the truth. It doesn't tell the truth in the short term, but in the long term, it tells the truth. In my entire financial life, I've been taught and told that the truth is revealed in 10-year blocks. You want to know what the best mutual funds out there are, check their 10-year record. You want to know what the best hedge funds out there are, check their 10-year record. Their 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year record can be just an anomaly. But if you check that 10-year record, that's the truth. Money managers, 10-year record, that's the truth. All right. Some sports figure, after 10 years, if they're still dominating, that's a true superstar, not a flash in the pan. 10 years tells the truth. I've been taught that my whole life. Now, I'll get to that, back to that in just a moment. Things we value, this is what I want you to understand. And well, this is what I know you understand. The things we value the most are actually not physical in our lives. High value is not physical. We value faith, things like faith and honesty and loyalty, dignity, decency. You can't touch these things, but some of these things, if not all of them, are priceless. These are things that we would rather have more than wealth or all the money in the world. Most people in the world are looking for honor. They regard it as something extraordinarily high in their lives. Decency, righteousness, love. You can't touch these things. The whole movement of life and value is from the physical to the ethereal. There was a time where the vast majority of the human race worshiped physical gods. Today, the vast majority of the people on earth understand that the God that they worship is not physical, it's ethereal and all-powerful. The whole movement of value, the whole evolution is from the physical to the non-physical. And we have to understand this. Now, the value of those who dematerialize. So there are companies and there are organizations and there are people and there are movements that are actually, they exist to dematerialize something. And if you want to seek out value in the markets, just seek out what's dematerializing the world. Let's look at some of those who were in the business of dematerializing things. Now, take a look at this list. You got Google, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Tesla, and of course, Bitcoin. Now, look, Every single one of these companies dematerialized something in life. Google dematerialized information and knowledge. It collapsed libraries around the world. My mother sold encyclopedias door to door to send me to private school. On the side, where are encyclopedias today? Well, you know who's at fault for making them disappear? Google. Google dematerialized encyclopedias. Google dematerialized information, libraries, educational programs all over the world. Facebook dematerialized the whole social experience, making absolute physical contact unnecessary in a way. Dematerialize the social experience in life. Amazon dematerialized many things. They help dematerialize books. They dematerialize the whole shopping experience. I'm going to a store, traveling to a mall or whatever. Yeah, we can do it today, but Netflix dematerialized. These are the wealthiest, biggest, richest companies in the world. Why? Because they were in the process of digitizing, dematerializing the world. And their records show that if you put $1,000 into Google 10 years ago, you have 6,000 today, 9,000 for Facebook with just 1,000, and go to sleep for 10 years and you wake up wealthier. 22,000 Amazon, Netflix, 34,000. These are cute numbers when we get all the way to Bitcoin. $1,000 10 years ago would have reaped you over $250 million. That's insane. Now we're talking 10 years. Remember I told you that my whole financial life, I was taught in school, and I went to some of the best schools in the world. I was taught that 10 years reveals the truth in the market. Well, here's 10 years. What's the market telling us? The market's telling us that whoever dematerializes the world, it gets the greatest value. And the biggest dematerialization that is going to take place, this is what the 10-year record's saying, is in the money category. The last one's the biggest. Everything else has been broken down and dematerialized. Now it's time for money. Bitcoin has come on the scene to tackle, to take on the last one, which is the biggest one. We're talking about $900 trillion combined market. There is no market bigger than $900 trillion. And there are some who believe, and I'm amongst them, that Bitcoin over time is going to suck the vast majority of that value into itself, because it stands as a Google, a Facebook, an Amazon, a Netflix, but on steroids. It stands to dematerialize the ancient and very slow and unfair and inadequate monetary systems that create a lot of problems around the world. All right. Now, here is a list of the top assets in the entire world. Take a look at where Bitcoin is. It's number 8 on the list. It's the baby of everything on this list. It's the youngest. Well, maybe Facebook is a little bit younger, but for the most part, it's the baby. And it's $1 trillion in value. Now, there's only 5 other, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 5 other companies in the entire world worth more than Bitcoin. My bet is that by December, there is no company more valuable than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to take out Google, Silver, Amazon, Microsoft, Saudi Aramco, Apple. This year, that's my, mark my words, you're listening to me. This year, how many weeks do we have left in this year? Just a few. This year, look at the value of Apple, $2.9 trillion. So all it has to do is double. My bet is that it triples. That's right, this year, in weeks. And that is why I'm talking to you right now. This thing is going to eat the world. And it has eaten the world over the past 10 years. But I believe the next 10 years are even bigger than the first 10 years. The adoption of this technology is the fastest in the history of mankind. See, before this, the internet was the fastest adopted technology in the history of the world, but not anymore. Today, Bitcoin is the fastest adopted technology in the world. And what kind of technology it is? It's a technology of money. Now, what's more important to you? Look at the value of Apple. They help dematerialize your photos. Oh, they're very nice. They dematerialize my photos. And they're worth $2 trillion. Well, how much more important is your money? Remember I told you that the dematerialized version is exponentially larger. Look at where gold is. Gold is at the top spot, worth $11 trillion. That's the analog phone. That's the kerosene lamp. In fact, the kerosene lamp is less than 6,000 years old. That's a 6,000-year-old monetary piece of money. And it's going to be taken out. But remember, the analog phone was taken out by the iPhone, but the iPhone didn't stop at the value of the analog phone, did it? The iPhone didn't come on the scene and say, okay, I'm going to rise to the price of the value of $34, did it? Didn't it supersede the $34 price exponentially? Didn't Netflix exceed the value and price of a blockbuster exponentially? Amazon, so if Bitcoin is the digital version of gold, shouldn't it be way past the analog version? That's where it's going. It's not going to match the analog version, in my view. That would be stupid. We know that the digital version doesn't just match. It takes it out and goes exponentially beyond. And so look at the potential. We're 1/11th of the way just to matching. What's going to happen when it really starts doing its thing and passing the $34 value of the analog phone? Wow. I believe that Bitcoin is not the money for the internet. Bitcoin is the internet of money. There's a very big difference with that. It is the new world monetary system. And every single hour, every single day, every single week, every single month, you hear stories of greater adoption and greater adoption and greater adoption. It's the fastest adopted technology ever known to mankind, and it will never stop. It's got $900 trillion to go. All right. Now, guys, very quickly, cash over the last 10 years, -6%, bond, -3%, gold, 1.2% over the past 10 years. Wow. 8% on average over the past 10 years. S&P 11% annually over the past 10 years. NASDAQ 16%. Whoa. Over the last 10 years. Bitcoin 213% annually over the past 10 years. And some people might say, well, Oliver, okay, that's probably going to wane in value. I believe it doubles. I believe that the next 10 years is more spectacular because less than 2% of the world has plugged itself in to that network. So think about when 2% of the world was on the internet. That was in 1997. And we're in 1997. We have the ability to go back to 1997. We know how this plays out. We know what the internet did. This is the internet of money now. And less than 2% of the world have plugged in. So I suggest we lock ourselves in right now and we sit and ride this thing out. All right, guys, gold, I believe that we're repeating right now what happened in the 1970s. Gold, okay? Gold was the base layer of money at the time. It went from $35 an ounce to a value of $1.2 trillion. Look at what happened to Bitcoin in the last year and a half. It went from, okay, so gold goes from $35 an ounce in the early 1970s, and it goes to $1.2 trillion in a very short period of time. Gold just adds a zero. It goes from $3,500 an ounce in 2020 to $1.2 trillion in value. Then gold drops back. Then Bitcoin drops back from after reaching $1.2 trillion. It's repeating gold. We've seen this movie play out. It's repeating gold's path, just with bigger numbers. Of course, the digital version is always bigger. Why wouldn't it be bigger than the analog version? $35, $3,500. All right. Now, gold reached a price of $1,000 in a few short years, $35 to $1,000. Bitcoin, $3,500 to $5 trillion. And on its way to 11 trillion, to at least match gold and then take gold out. So I track the historical path of gold because Bitcoin is the digital version of it. But it's going to be on steroids, in my opinion. My short-term Bitcoin targets, I'm almost done here. I want to share with you guys, look, Bitcoin is, where is it at today? What's that, 54,000? Quickly check for you. Okay, it's 54,200 some odd dollars right now per coin. This month, we're still in October. That's my target, 65, and I'm sticking with it. 65, mark my words, write it down. November, next month, 93,000. That's right, 93,000. December, minimum. This is minimum. This is my conservative December target, 115. Now, I believe I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, I told you so, but mark these numbers down. Take a snapshot. Hold my foot to the fire on this. That's what's going to happen over the next few weeks, in my opinion. Okay. It's not advice. I can't give you advice. I'm just telling you what my research has revealed. And that's the short term, right? You don't even want to know what my long-term targets are. All right, guys, I've been doing this for a while. I caught the bottom. Look, this is me in March 12th, 2020, putting out my Bitcoin buy alert, the first one ever. All right, crazy. The light just went out. Here it is right here. Look at the date, March 12th, 2020. What do I say here? All right. I made my first big move into Bitcoin is falling over 25% today. I made my first big move into it. I bought between the prices of 5,700 and 5,900. And I will continue to buy on the way down. And I did all the way down to 3,800. But I'm still buying every single day. I buy Bitcoin every single day of my life. That's true. My traders know that. Guys, this was just taken. This snapshot was just taken right before I came on live with you. All right, right before. This is where, very quickly, this is where that announcement to the world was, all the way back, right there. Boom. That's my buy. Now, what I love about the internet is that you can't change or erase anything. So that's the date. You want to go take a look at it and check. Boom. That's March 12th and 13th of 2020, March 2020. And boom, 3,800 to 65. Remember, that's the $1.2 trillion top here. Drop just like gold did. Right, remember that? All right, don't forget. And now all the way to 5 trillion. That's my bet. That's my statement. And I'm sticking to it, guys. All right, good. Guys, listen, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. And even if you don't really, even if you are skeptical a little bit of what I'm saying in any particular way, just absorb it a little bit. Take it in. The concepts I talked about have been happening to us our entire lives. you see very clearly that any company that has dematerialized things have gone on to be the biggest companies in the world. You see that the thing right now that is dematerializing money is even bigger than they are, the better performing than they are, faster moving, being adopted faster than Facebook was adopted, faster than Amazon was adopted, faster than electricity was adopted, faster than the internet was adopted. Why? Because the world needs nothing more today than for its money to be fixed and to be dematerialized and taken out of prehistoric ages. All right, guys, listen, if you are in some way, you might just be interested in joining my family. If you are, I'd certainly welcome you. Guys, I have a program called Equity Self-Start. I fund all of my traders. I tell them put their capital away. I give them my capital, and we teach them and train them every single day, and we share the profits. All right. My wealth program involves the whole Bitcoin trading approach as well, along with picking companies that are plugging themselves into this dynamic revolution. And listen, over the last 10 years, we've killed the market, but I believe the next 10 years are actually even better. All right. So please contact us if you're interested in that, guys. I love you to death. Thank you very much for attending. Money Show, thank you for having me once again. And also thank you for being so liberal with your time. All right. Thank you, guys.